Guys, it's yours truly coming back at you all with another one, and today I'll be going on a review of the master rules. And the master rules simply are it was actually implemented when 5Ds came into the picture for synchro summoning, and basically they just state rules that apply to the new summoning method and how they work in terms of the new monster concept, such as when they introduce tuners into the game, as well as the summoning method for exceed summoning, pendulums in the way that those cards would, interact with the game. Will you say Shadow? Will you say A? As well as link summoning. Because if you guys have noticed that the ruling for pendulum, they aren't stated on the cards as effect. It's an actual rule. When pendulum monsters would be destroyed, instead of going to the graveyard, they go to the extra deck. And unless you understand the master rules behind those cards, you wouldn't really understand how to keep them from going to the extra deck. So I'll be going over the master rules, and basically it's just an introduction of the newer select type of monsters that they introduce into the game. Will you say Shimmy? Will you say guy who doesn't speak English? I didn't understand what you typed, but hey, yeah. When they introduced tuners into the game to synchro summon, it was a new mechanic that enabled the game speed to progress even further. One of the rulings they also changed: if you hadn't been playing Yu-Gi-Oh from the start, only one field spell card could have been active at a time. So let's say my opponent played a field spell, and then on my turn I would have played my field spell. My field spell would then destroy their field spell and then be the dominant field spell in play. And it was a thing I used to do with Gear Town, where I would purposely play a Gear Town face up, and then I would set a Gear Town on top of that face down. Because of the ruling back then, it when another field spell card goes into play or set over another one, it's considered as destroyed. So I would then get the Gear Town's effect to summon Ancient Gear Gadgetron Dragon to the field. But how they changed the ruling now, like two field spells can be in play at the same time, so you no longer get that destruction effect. When they brought in the mechanic for exceed summoning, is like give me a sec. Yeah, when they brought in the mechanic for exceed summoning, and the ruling on exceed monsters were two monsters of the same level, and to summon, instead of the material going to the graveyard, or the monsters that are used for the exceed summon, instead of going to the graveyard, they are now treated as what is known as overlay units. And the brilliant concept behind that is, you add monster effects that would trigger when they would go to the graveyard or when they would leave the field, such as Tengu Reborn. So one of the ways exceed summoning came into play to be able to get around methods like that was, instead of Tengu going to the graveyard, if you used them as an exceed material, it was no longer considered as he left the field. So if he would be sent to the graveyard as an exceed material, because being an exceed material does not count as being on the field, his effect to bring another copy of himself from the deck to the field does not activate. So any monster effect in play that says once it leaves the field, such as an Earthbound Immortal, I think that's Kakua Kappa or something like that, the Wing Beast one, if it's special summoned to the field via any method, and you use let's say Silent Honor Arc, that would be 101, and you use his effect to take it as an overlay unit. When it's then removed from 101, whether to save him from being destroyed or if he has another unit that was equipped him to take another one of your opponent's monsters, the Earthbound Immortal effect will not trigger, because becoming an overlay unit does not count as being on the field. another one of the rulings was when they introduced pendulum monsters. The introduction of pendulum monsters, like, it really just changed the game on a totally different level. Because never before have monsters ever been destroyed and just went right to your extra deck for easy access to be able to swarm the field. Because swarming the field, when you would hear those terms, you would think about stuff like Black Wings and can't picture another archetype right off my head that swarms the field, but basically Black Wings, because that were their specialty, swarming the field. And never before have you seen another set or series of cards that could swarm the field as efficiently as Black Wings and do a massive amount of damage. So when Pendulum was introduced, seeing that they can not only be set in the scale when they are destroyed, whether they are a monster in play or in the Pendulum scale, they would just go to your extra deck and just do some crazy amount of ridiculous things, like eccentric Archfiend. Like, you can just set her in the scale, pop one in your opponent's back row, set your Pendulum scale, Pendulum or back out, and then you can pop an opponent's monster on the field, and then during your next turn you can rependulum summon her out to pop another monster if need be. Like, that is absolutely crazy, the versatility that you can get off the Pendulum monsters. And one of the rulings are that a lot of people don't realize why they think that pendulums are so broken is that if there is an effect that says that cards would be banished instead of going to the graveyard, or any card that would be sent to the graveyard would be banished instead, if those, whether they're in the pendulum scale or summoned as a monster on the field, if they are destroyed via any method, instead of going to the extra deck, they are then banished, because there's now an effect changing that they would go to the graveyard to a different place. So that is how you can get over pendulum monsters in that regard. But in essence of how they changed the game, they really sped up the current meta at that time. And now that the meta has changed to more of a link summoning type method, it has really solved that issue that a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players have been complaining about, how pendulums can just keep popping, go into the extra deck and just swarming the field, and then going into these outrageous first turn moves and plays. I mean, that can simply be counted if you have decent hand traps incorporated into your deck. Hey Extreme. So it's like with the new link summoning mechanic, I'm sure they haven't worked out all of the glitches, but it's really neat. It really limits what we are actually used to in Yu-Gi-Oh, where we can multi-fusion summon, synchro summon, or do a junction of synchro exceed and fusion plays in a single turn. Now we are actually required to use link monsters in order to open up our monster zones as extra monster zones to continue those kinds of plays, which I understand where Konami was going with it, because when you look at some of the things that high caliber duelists are capable of in a single turn, you can imagine what it's like for a novice or a beginner just to start off playing Yu-Gi-Oh right now, see what we can do, and it's hard for them to keep up when it's so many things that they have to learn, master, and understand and get used to. So I can understand where Konami was going with the link summoning method. Also with the new Master Rule 4, where to pendulum summon, they placed the pendulum zone inside of the spell and trap card zone. And what that does is, because the pendulum zone was actually treated as a spell card zone for the monsters, making two of the spell and trap card zones the new pendulum zones now was actually genius, because now you don't have to worry about crazy card combination with pendulums, whereas you can play pendulums, run card of demise, and now you have a crazy 5-card back row that you now have to out, because now they would have to use two of their spell and trap card zones as their pendulum scale. If they play a card like Card of Demise, the most face downs they actually want to set is 2, because you want to leave a space open to play your spells. So it limits your opponent's counter potential if they're going to be playing pendulums, where they can still multi-pendulum from the hand, even if they don't need all of those monsters they pop that are in their extra deck, they still have that potential of pendulum summoning multiple monsters from the hand. So with link summoning, there are link monsters as well. The ruling is that they cannot be changed to defense position, so they have to remain in attack position. And I noticed, because I was watching the anime series, they actually started to expand on one of our old favorite trap cards that was one of the most powerful back in the day, Mirror Force. And I think it's called Mirror Force Launcher, and another card for Mirror Force. Like, you can actually just get Mirror Force from your deck or graveyard, added back to your hand. And I think it's a card that sets it right on the field, and during that turn you can also activate the Mirror Force in response, which I think is really cool, because now they're actually expanding on the cards from back in the day. So now it's really more strategic now, because if your opponent or the newer cards are now link monsters, they can't really defend themselves. So, you know, adding in all of those new Mirror Force like Storming and Quaking, like, you are guaranteed to hit those, because now, you know, if your opponent is using just a link based deck, all of their monsters are going to be in attack mode, which allows for some really insane counters to their moves, such as comboing let's say Storming with a Magical Cylinder. So you would activate Storming Mirror Force, then Magical Cylinder, and then the Magical Cylinder would actually negate the first attack and burn your opponent for that damage, and then Storming would then return all the monsters, I think it is, to the hand. And I try to remember the Mirror Force that sends it back to the deck, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just a mere fact that you can make some insane combo plays with those Mirror Forces while burning your opponent or doing something, you know, out of this world crazy. But also with the master rules, win conditions as well, because back in the day it only used to be either you reduce your opponent's life points to 0, cause them to deck out, or Exodia. And then as the series went on, they introduced what is known as the spell and trap card version of Exodia, which is called Final Art, the Destiny board. And in the Japanese version, those cards actually spelled death. So the trap card would actually be D, and everything else would follow in line, E, A, T, H, and you would lose the duel. And it was the spell and trap card version basically of Exodia that gave you the same win condition. Yo, what you say, Blitz? That gave you the same win condition. So they added more win conditions as the game progressed, such as Vennominaga, where if she gains 3 hyper venom counters, you automatically win the duel. I also do have duels containing that, as well as I think it's Destiny Leo. Once you use all 3 of your overlay units, you automatically win the duel. I think there's also well, Extreme, I've been watching Yu-Gi-Oh from it first came out, been playing it as soon as they released the card, so there is just not much I don't know, because I like to keep things competitive and know what is going on, so that, you know, I can keep my current gameplay up with what's going on in today's time. So if anyone asks for advice, I can be able to better advise them, even if, you know, I haven't really explored, like with link summoning, I haven't really, you know, play on the link summoning format, but I understand how link summoning works. So I am then able to function on the link summoning format, because it's not an issue to me understanding how to use or bring out link monsters using tokens, using card effects like I think it's the agent, I can't remember her name, but she brings out the mystic shine balls, and then you can just like pay for the shine balls and then keep link summoning, and then opening up your extra monster zones, further in that with brilliant fusion, and then further in that with instant fusion. Just keep going. And like I told you guys, if you put me in link summoning, I will beat that mechanic so bad Konami is gonna have to do something with that. But enough about me, you know, talking about how much I can break link summoning just off that one simple example. But yeah, Yeah, they added in more win conditions, such as with Ghostricks for exceed monsters, where if she gains like 10 overlay units, you automatically win the duel. What I'll do is in the link below, I'll leave a link to each one of those win conditions so you guys can check them out. You know, watching Exodia's win condition, the Destiny Leo, the Vennominaga, I think that's Queen or something like that, Poisonous Deity or something like that, and the Destiny Leo. I would actually leave those links in the description below so you guys can check that out. The person who's got a bunch of squiggly stuff that I can't understand, due to the fact that I'm supposed to be to work in the next 20 minutes, I'll probably have to play tomorrow. But I just wanted to do an introductory to the master rules so you guys would understand and be able to keep those in mind, that when you are deck building, that it's excellent if you have more than one way to win a duel inside your deck. It really gives you versatility, such as when you end up in those stall like duels where your opponent's just stalling you, whether you can, you know, if you can't reduce their life points to 0 through attacking, like either getting it through a monster's win condition, spell or trap card win condition. Oh, also final countdown, also win condition by waiting out 20 turns. If you can burn your opponent to death while they're stalling you, you know, stuff like that, so you can have versatility when you duel. Like I said, I leave a link in the description for those 4 win conditions. I haven't done a final countdown one. If you guys want to, I can do that for you guys. Also, decking your opponent out is also a win condition. So you can do stuff like that where you just literally beat down your opponent's deck and cause them to deck out as quick as possible and acquire a win condition. I also will leave a link in the description for that. I have also done that before. But yeah, that's basically it for the master rules. And if you guys want to be a sponsor or, you know, patron to this channel, you know, as we continue to grow and move forward, I will also leave the wire transfer instructions for you guys. So, you know, anything you want to contribute to the channel in terms of helping me get, you know, better equipment, camera, so you guys can actually see me as I do this live, stuff like that. Even, you know, being able to put funds forward to do, you know, question and answer series for you guys, so you guys can, like, you know, just, you know, win a couple of dollars here and there, you know, just do something for you guys to keep the channel more exciting, more entertaining, and, you know, just worthwhile watching. And this is yours truly signing out. So until next time, later.